I was pushed off a cliff by my most trusted fiancé and half-sister working together, leaving no remains behind. Before I died, I realized they had long plotted for my Jiang family's ancestral purple mansion soul, returning pill, and even intended to swallow up my clan's assets. Reborn back in the ruined temple where I saved him, facing the critically injured, dying scumbag and my half-sister's tearful pleas, I turned and fed the only divine pill to a complete stranger in black beside me. My pill. I'll save whoever I want. The icy river water poured madly into my mouth and nose, my limbs struggling in the bone. Chilling water. Sister, just go in peace. Zhang Wanru's sweet, yet vicious voice drifted down clearly. Only if you die, sister, can I legitimately marry brother Jinghong and take over everything of yours. I struggled to look up. At the edge of the cliff was the silhouette of my good, half-sister Zhang Wanru, and beside her the man I had once loved with everything I had, even going so far as to steal the family's last purple mansion soul, returning pill to save, was looking down coldly at my sinking figure, his eyes without a ripple of emotion. Gu Jinghong, hatred wrapped around my heart like a poisonous vine. Just as my consciousness was about to completely dissipate, a black figure broke through the guards at the cliff's edge, jumped down regardless of the consequences, and lunged towards me. Unfortunately, it was too late. Darkness had already completely swallowed me. The bone, piercing chill hasn't faded yet, but a violent, jolting sensation suddenly startled me awake. "Miss, you are awake." The tearful cry of my maid, Chuli, came from beside my ear. I snapped my eyes open. What met my eyes was not the cold, dark bottom of the pool, but the familiar interior of a carriage. I was wearing a riding outfit, only it was covered in dust. Waves of dull pain were coming from my arm. I looked down and saw a hideous wound oozing blood. What is going on? Didn't I already die? "Miss, don't move." Chuli hurriedly held me down, her voice trembling. Those mountain bandits were terrifying just now. Fortunately, the guards fought desperately to hold them off, and we managed to escape. Mountain bandits escaped? My head buzzed, and chaotic fragments of memories surged wildly. I've been reborn, that is right. At this time in my past life, I heard Gu Jinghong was ambushed and seriously injured outside the city. Burning with anxiety, I ignored father's ban, secretly took the family's only remaining life, saving Miracle Pill, and rushed to save him. We were ambushed by mountain bandits on the way. The guards were wiped out, and I luckily fled into a ruined temple while wounded. Then, right there, I met the heavily injured Gu Jinghong. Then, without hesitation, I fed him the divine pill, and then, after that came inviting a wolf into the house, leading to a broken home and death. Gu Jinghong rose step by step, relying on my Zhang family's support, yet secretly had an affair with Zhang Wanru. In the end, they joined hands to devour my Zhang family's legacy, and even tricked me to the edge of a cliff, and pushed me off to silence me. Intense hatred makes my whole body tremble, my fingernails digging deep into my palms. The sharp pain reminds me that this is not a dream. I have experienced rebirth. Rebirth back to this very moment, the turning point that decides all fate. "Who?" The coachman abruptly reined in the carriage, his voice panic-stricken. "Miss, ahead. There is a dilapidated temple up ahead, but there seems to be the sound of fighting inside. Shall we take a detour?" The dilapidated temple. My heart trembled violently, and I yanked open the carriage curtain. Twilight was closing in, wild grass grew thickly, and that lonely, dilapidated temple not far away came into view. "This is the place." My voice was hoarse. "No need to detour. Stop right here. I'll go in and take a look myself. Chuli, take the rest of the people and guard the outside. No matter what noise you hear, you are not allowed to come in." Chuli was scared pale. "Miss, it is too dangerous." I turned a deaf ear, endured the severe pain in my arm, and jumped off the carriage without hesitation. I tightly gripped the cold porcelain bottle in my sleeve, containing the purple mansion soul, returning pill, walking step by step toward that dilapidated temple that changed my fate in my past life. The temple door was ajar, and a thick scent of blood rushed toward my face. I gently pushed open the door. Several corpses of men in black were lying on the ground, clearly the aftermath of a fierce battle, and by the haystack in the corner, two men covered in blood were leaning weakly against the wall, gasping for breath. Won was dressed in a brocade robe, his face handsome but pale as paper, with a wound on his chest so deep the bone was visible. It was none other than Gu Jinghong. Seeing me, a spark of hope suddenly burst from his dim eyes. He struggled to reach his hand out to me, his breath faint as a thread. "Wan Yue medicine, quick, save me." It was a pity that looking at him now only filled me with immense disgust and rage. My gaze swept coldly past him and landed on another man not far from his side. That man was wearing a black night suit soaked in blood, fresh blood constantly gushing from his abdomen. His face was so pale it was almost transparent, and he had fallen into a semi-comatose state. Yet, even in this state, his brow was tightly furrowed, and his hand still gripped a broken longsword with a death grip, like a beast that would never submit even on the brink of death. Who is he? In my past life, I hurriedly saved Gu Jingong and didn't seem to pay much attention to this man in black who was practically dead. Just as I hesitated, Gu Jingong's voice became even more urgent and faint. "Yuer, save me. I can't hold on. For the sake of our past love, give me the purple mansion soul returning pill." Jiang Wanru popped out from who knows which corner, her hair bun messy, weeping like a pear blossom bathed in rain, as she threw herself at Gu Jingong's side and urgently begged me. "Sister, save brother Jingong. Quick. He sent the last of the guards to protect us. That is why he is hurt so badly. Sister, didn't you bring the divine pill? Take it out, hurry." What a scene of deep love and devotion, truly touching. If I hadn't experienced that bone, piercing betrayal and the freezing pool water, I would almost have been fooled by them again. I watched her act, sneering in my heart. My gaze fell back onto that man in black. Scenes from my past life flashed rapidly before my eyes. Monstrous hatred finally turned into icy resolve. Under the incredulous gazes of Gu Jingong and Jiang Wanru, I suddenly turned around and took a step in front of that man in black. Without hesitation, I took out that purple mansion soul return pill, which was emitting a strong, exotic fragrance. "Sister, what are you doing?" I turned a deaf ear and personally, carefully fed that peerless divine pill, capable of reviving the dead and regrowing flesh on bones, into the mouth of the man in black. "Zhang Wanyu, are you crazy? That is brother Jinghong's life, saving medicine. You fed it to this dead man of unknown origin. What about brother Jinghong?" Jiang Wanru almost lunged forward to tear at me. I slowly stood up, my blood-stained skirt brushing the ground, my gaze sweeping over the horror, struck Jiang Wanru, and the despairing Gu Jingong beside her. "My pill. I'll save whoever I want to save." Gu Jinghong stared at me in disbelief. Blood gushed from the wound on his chest again, dyeing his already filthy brocade robe red. "Jiang Wanyue, you..." Jiang Wanru's scream almost blew the roof off the ruined temple. "Jiang Wanyue, are you crazy? You actually fed the purple mansion soul, returning pill to this dying piece of trash. That was brother Jinghong's life, saving medicine." She suddenly lunged at me. "Spit it out. Quick! Make him spit it out." I was prepared. I sidestepped to easily dodge her grab and shoved her hard with a backhand. Jiang Wanru stumbled and fell to the ground, her hair bun coming loose, looking even more of a mess. "The pill is mine. Is it your place to have a say in who I want to save?" I looked down at her. Jiang Wanru's face instantly turned deathly pale. "Sister, you must be scared out of your mind. Brother Jinghong was injured trying to save me. Shut up, I interrupted her sharply, too lazy to watch their nauseating performance any longer. My gaze turned to the man in black who had taken the pill. In just the time of a few words, a faint trace of color actually surfaced on his pale face at a speed visible to the naked eye. The most astonishing thing was the wound on his abdomen. The speed at which the fresh blood gushed out had visibly slowed, and there were even faint signs of it closing up. The Zifu soul, returning pill really does have the effect of bringing the dead back to life. My heart settled a bit, and I immediately tore off the inner lining of my clothes, preparing to simply bandage him up. Zhang Wanya. Upon seeing this, Gu Jinghong, filled with a mix of jealous hatred and the desire to survive, actually struggled to crawl over. Give me the pill. Are there any more? Give me, I beg you. I looked coldly at his wretched state, my heart completely unmoved. In my past life, I was deceived by this pitiful look. In this life, I will absolutely not be soft-hearted again. Gu Jinghong, save your strength. There was only one pill, since I chose to feed it to someone else. There is naturally no reason to give it to you. Gu Jinghong was overcome by acute anger, and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His gaze rapidly lost focus, and he actually fainted dead away. Brother Jinghong! Zhang Wanru screamed and lunged over. Finding he was only unconscious, she breathed a slight sigh of relief, then immediately looked up and roared at me again. Zhang Wanya, look at the state you've angered Brother Jinghong into. If anything happens to him, the Gokyu family will definitely not let you off. I couldn't be bothered with her and continued bandaging the man in black. At this moment, the faint sound of horse hooves and Chuli's anxious calls came from outside the temple. Miss, are you all right? That is right. Chuli and the surviving guards were still outside. I immediately raised my voice. I am fine, Chuli. You guys come in and clean this place up. Chuli rushed in with 2 injured guards, and upon seeing the scene inside the temple, they were all startled. Miss, this. Young Master Gu is too heavily injured and has fallen unconscious. I ordered calmly, pointing at the unconscious Gu Jinghong. As for Zhang Wanru, keep her under guard first. Simply help young Master Gu stop the bleeding. Don't let him actually die. I want him alive to endure a punishment more painful than death. Yes, although the guards were bewildered and uncertain, seeing my resolute attitude, they immediately accepted the order. They stepped forward to roughly bandage the wound on Gu Jinghong's chest that was still oozing blood, then dragged the incessantly crying and fussing Zhang Wanru aside and tied her up. I asked Chuli to help, carefully lifting the man in black onto the carriage. He was still unconscious, but his brows seemed to have unfurrowed slightly. On the way back to the city, I felt delighted. Gu Jinghong's injuries were extremely severe. Even if he barely managed to hang on to his life, he would probably be left disabled. Just arriving at the entrance of the Zhang Manor, father, who had received the news, was already waiting there anxiously. Seeing the scene behind the carriage, he was greatly startled. I briefly told father the events of encountering mountain bandits, Gu Jinghong being seriously injured, and fortunately receiving help from a righteous man, concealing the truth of my rebirth. Father looked at Gu Jinghong, who was unconscious and deathly pale, then looked at the heavily injured man in black. His expression was grave, and he finally let out a long sigh. Never mind that. Handling what is in front of us matters most right now. Go quickly and get the best doctor. Get treatment for nephew Gu and this righteous hero. The manor was thrown into a flurry of activity. The doctor arrived quickly, checked Gu Jinghong's condition first, and shook his head repeatedly after feeling his pulse. Young Master Gu's injuries are extremely severe. The wound on his chest cuts deep into his vitals. Although the bleeding has been barely stopped, his meridians are severely damaged. Even if he wakes up later, I am afraid his martial arts will be completely lost, and any hope for an official career is gone. And this leg, the doctor examined his left leg, which had been slashed by bandits earlier, and sighed. The wound is festering and the tendons are severed. Whether he can stand or walk in the future will depend on fate. Hearing this, Father's expression grew heavy. But in my heart, I was secretly cheering. Martial arts completely ruined, official career cut off, and possibly even unable to walk properly. Truly, the cycle of karma turns, and retribution never misses its mark. Afterwards, the doctor went to check on the man in black, and after checking his pulse, he looked even more astonished. How strange. This young gentleman's injuries are even more severe. Yet there is a vigorous vitality protecting his heart vessels, and the wounds are actually slowly healing on their own. It is truly unheard of. I'll prescribe some medicine to strengthen his foundation. With good care, he should be fine. I understood in my heart that this was the divine pill's effects still lasting. The Gu family soon sent people to pick up the unconscious Gu Jingong, their attitude even showing signs of misplaced anger. Jiang Wanru was also ordered by Father to be locked in a remote woodshed, with trusted aides sent to guard her. She cried, screamed, and cursed all day long, at times mad and at times lucid. As for the man in black, after being unconscious for 3 whole days, he finally woke up. His gaze swept across the unfamiliar surroundings, finally landing on me. "Did you save me?" "Yes," I answered calmly, handing him some warm water. "How do you feel?" But he didn't answer immediately. "Where is this place? How long was I unconscious? And who might you be, miss?" "This is the Jiang Manor in Qingzhou City. You've been unconscious for 3 days. My surname is Jiang. My name is Wanye." I answered his questions one by one, then asked in return, "And how should I address you?" He fell silent for a moment, seemingly weighing his options, before slowly uttering 2 words, "Yechen." "Miss Jiang, you saved my life. I shall etch this into my heart." His tone was solemn, and though weak, he possessed a certain air of dignity. "I will definitely repay this great kindness in the future." "You speak too seriously, Master Yi. It was barely any trouble at all," I said indifferently. After all, even if I fed the divine pill to a dog, I would never again give it to an ungrateful wretch like Gu Jingong. A few days later, news spread through the city. It was said that although Gu Jingong luckily survived, just as the doctor predicted, he had lost all his martial arts and was bedridden. The news seemed to have grown wings. Within just a few days, it had spread through every street and alley of Qingzhou City. Whenever people spoke of it, they couldn't help but sigh. The once high-spirited young master of the Jiyu family, whose future had seemed so bright, was now a cripple who had lost all his martial arts and even found it difficult to stand. Although the Gu family hadn't explicitly stated they were giving up on him, the clan's resources had clearly begun to shift toward other disciples. The bustling doorstep of his branch quickly became deserted, with only a few old servants left to wait on him. You reap what you sow. This is the retribution he deserves. Compared to the suffering he inflicted upon me in my past life, this is far from enough. Those who used to fawn over him scattered one by one, and the former favored son of heaven even became the object of everyone's secret ridicule. Even Jiang Wanru, who once seemed to have love for Gu Jinghong as deep as the sea, revealed her true colors. She had been locked in the woodshed for several days, crying and making a scene. But what she ultimately waited for was not Gu Jinghong coming to her rescue, but the bad news that his martial arts were gone and his future was ruined. At first, she didn't believe it. It wasn't until her father, with a cold face, informed her of the decision to send her to the family temple and tacitly allowed her to see Gu Jinghong one last time, that she truly realized the bet she had placed was lost completely. From the guest room in the west wing came Jiang Wanru's shrill crying voice, which she could no longer conceal. "Trash! You are just a piece of trash, Gu Jinghong. I was truly blind to have fallen for you. You said it was foolproof, said you'd make me the envy of everyone, and now you can't even stand up anymore. What are you going to use to give me riches? This broken body of yours. Then came the piercing sound of porcelain smashing. Wanru, you? Don't say my name. Looking at you makes me sick. Jiang Wanru's voice was filled with disgust. If I'd known you were such a useless thing, I would have been better off. Better off what? Gu Jinghong's voice suddenly turned gloomy. Jiang Wanru, don't forget, you had a part in those things too. If I go down, don't think you can walk away unscathed. It was quiet inside for a moment, followed by Jiang Wanru's even more hysterical voice. Are you threatening me? Fine. Let's die together then. My life is ruined anyway. But even if I die, I'll make sure to see you and that bitch Jiang Wanya suffer a terrible death first. Jiang Wanru violently pulled the door open and rushed out, tears streaking her face. But she ran right into me standing under the corridor of the West Wing. She paused, her gaze like a poisoned blade instantly pinning on me. But in the end, she just spat fiercely, turned her head, and ran away. I sneered inwardly. Sure enough, when the profit ends, they scatter. This pair of lovebirds who harmed me so deeply in my past life are now biting at each other like dogs. The day Jiang Wanru was sent to the family temple, I did not go to see her off. I only heard Chu Li come back and describe how she cried, screamed, and struggled. How she cursed me to die a horrible death, and was finally stuffed mercilessly into the carriage by a few burly older women. Father's face was livid, and he only ordered for her to be watched closely, saying nothing else. With one less person in the estate stirring up trouble and crying all day, the air seemed much cleaner. However, this peace didn't last long. I gradually noticed there seemed to be some unfamiliar faces outside the estate. They were dressed plainly, like peddlers walking the streets or idling passers-by, but their eyes were too sharp, occasionally sweeping over the Zhang estate's gates and high walls with an uncomfortable scrutiny. At first, I didn't think much of it, assuming the Guiu family was unwilling to let things go and had sent people to keep watch to vent their anger. Until that afternoon, when I went to the side wing to deliver newly brewed medicine to Yi Chen. His injuries were recovering extremely fast. The efficacy of the Purple Mansion Soul, returning pill, was practically heaven, defying, and combined with his own robust physique, in just about 10 days, he was able to get out of bed and walk. Though his face was still somewhat pale and he needed rest, when I pushed the door open and went in. He was standing by the window, gazing through the gaps in the lattice toward a certain direction on the street corner, his whole body radiating a murderous aura I had never felt before. That aura vanished without a trace the moment I stepped inside. Miss Zhang. He turned around and nodded slightly. Young master, you look a bit better today. I placed the medicine bowl on the table and asked, seemingly casually, what were you looking at just now? Is there something interesting on the street? Yi Chen walked to the table, picked up the medicine bowl, but didn't drink it immediately. Instead, he pondered for a moment and said, Miss Zhang, it seems things outside the manor haven't been very peaceful lately. My heart stirred. You noticed it too, young master. I thought it was the Gu family. It doesn't look like it. Yi Chen interrupted me. If the Gu family wanted to vent their anger, they would only send some 2-bit thugs to harass us. Those people outside have steady footsteps and sharp eyes, and they move with discipline. They seem more like, well, trained spies or assassins. Assassins. My heart suddenly tightened as I looked at him. Are they after you? Yi Chen didn't answer directly, only saying, I have quite a few enemies. My serious injuries this time were also due to an ambush. I've dragged your household into this. I immediately recalled the corpses of those black-clad assassins in the ruined temple, as well as the horrific injuries on his body. Do you know their background, young master? I suppressed my alarm and tried hard to stay calm. Ye Chen shook his head, his gaze deep. It is still unclear exactly which faction it is, but to be able to trace me here, they are definitely not to be trifled with. Miss Jiang, for the safety of your household, since my injuries are no longer serious, I should take my leave soon. No. Regarding the incident at the ruined temple, I ruined their plans. Will they really let an eyewitness and variable like me off the hook so easily? If they follow the clues and discover my existence. In my past life, I was ignorant and clueless, passively taking beatings. In this life, since I have rebirth and hold some chips, I absolutely won't repeat the same mistakes. Going out now is no different from walking right into a trap. I met his slightly surprised gaze, my tone firm. Since you are in the Jiang residence, you are my guest. Though I, Zhang Wanyue, am just a woman, I couldn't do something like pushing a guest out to block a blade. A trace of surprise flashed through Yi Chen's deep eyes. Besides, I changed tack. Since those people were able to find this place, they may well have noticed me too. You and I right now might already be in the same boat. He fell silent for a moment, then slowly said, "What do you want to do, miss? Soldiers come, generals block, water comes, earth covers. The Jiang Manor is not a place where people can just come and go as they please. I will inform father and strengthen the manor's security. Young master, your injuries have not yet healed. You still need to rest quietly and should not act rashly for the time being." I paused, then added, "Of course, if you trust me, young master, perhaps you could tell me a thing or two about your guesses, or the traits and habits of those people, so we can take precautions." Ye Chen looked at me, his gaze lingering on my face for a moment, and finally nodded slowly. "All right. In that case, I'll be imposing on you, miss. The enemy is skilled in concealment and tracking, accustomed to using poisoned daggers and sleeve arrows. They work in perfect sync, and are likely an organization specializing in assassination. I will draw diagrams of a few common hidden weapons and countermeasures for your estate's guards to reference." "Thank you for the trouble, young master." I breathed a sigh of relief. It is good that he can stay and is willing to provide information. After hearing my warning, father increased the number of guards. They patrolled day and night, and the checks on coming and going became much stricter. Ye Chen stayed in the wing room. Aside from channeling energy to heal his wounds, he spent his time drawing diagrams. I felt more and more that his identity was anything but ordinary. One morning, a few days later, I went to bring Yi Chen his medicine as usual. His injuries were healing at a miraculous speed, and he could move about freely, but to avoid drawing attention, he continued to stay in the residence to recuperate. I had just picked up the medicine bowl when I caught a whiff of a very faint, sickly sweet scent that was distinctly different from the bitterness of the herbs. I paused mid-motion. "What is it?" Ye Chen immediately noticed something was off with me. "This medicine? The smell seems wrong." I lowered my voice and held the bowl closer to his nose. "Smell this." Yi Chen's expression hardened, and he sniffed it carefully. He seemed far more sensitive to underhanded schemes than most people. A moment later, his gaze turned cold. "It is the scent of rosary peas. Although masked by the bitterness of the medicinal herbs, it can't fool a nose that has undergone special training. A small amount causes weakness and drowsiness, but long-term consumption damages the mind, leaving one like an imbecile. What a vicious scheme. It seems someone is already getting impatient." I put down the medicine bowl, anger boiling within me. There are many hands in the kitchen, so it won't be easy to investigate, and we risk alerting the enemy. Ye Chen pondered for a moment. "Leave this to me. You need to be extra careful with your food and drink these days as well." I nodded. With this warning, I was even stricter in controlling the small kitchen in my courtyard. All ingredients and herbs were handled personally by Chuli, leaving hardly any opening to exploit. Since poisoning didn't work, their schemes followed one after another. Not 2 days later, rumors suddenly sprang up all over the city. They said the Jiang family's eldest miss, Zhang Wanyue, had loose morals, that she had harmed her fiancé, leaving him crippled, and had brought back a wild man of unknown origin to hide in her boudoir, acting promiscuously and disgracing the family name. Overnight, A neatly written confession with filthy content began circulating in every major tea house and tavern in Qingzhou City, and even in the academies, and the signature was actually Jiang Wanyu. The letter described in extreme detail how, unable to endure her loneliness, she had wild sex with that mysterious man in black, Yi Chen, in a dilapidated temple. It claimed that after being caught in the act by her fiancé Gu Jinghong, she heartlessly pushed him off a cliff, then staged the scene to lie about encountering bandits. Every single word was the utmost slander, portraying me as a promiscuous, venomous woman who murdered her own husband. The rumors were spun so vividly and with such realistic details. Plus, I had indeed brought back Yi Chen, and Gu Jinghong was indeed critically injured and near death, that many people who didn't know the truth actually believed them and talked about it endlessly. The Jiang family's century-old reputation was sullied in an instant. Almost at the same time, several clan elders who weren't usually close to father, and even had some grudges, suddenly came to the door together, using the excuse that the Jiang manor has suffered repeated misfortunes. The family business is unstable, and plans need to be made early. They proposed to take custody of the Jiang family's assets. They claimed it was to preserve the foundation for the clan, but in reality they were pressing step by step, wanting to swallow it all up. Father was exhausted from dealing with the rumors and was being pestered by the clan elders, leaving him completely frazzled. My heart was as clear as a mirror. The timing they chose to strike is definitely no coincidence. They are trying to drive us father and daughter to our deaths and carve up the Jiang family. Ye Chen's gaze was sharp. It seems your good sister and that young Master Gu, even though one is crippled and the other sent to the family temple, have never given up. Instead, they've colluded with more monsters and demons to completely drive you to your deaths. On this day, father came back, his face livid. He slapped a hand, copied personal statement right in front of me, his hands shaking with rage. This is simply preposterous, utterly malicious. But, what they're saying outside sounds so real, even that butterfly birthmark on your waist. He couldn't go on, clearly furious. Yet, there was also a trace of imperceptible suspicion. I picked up that piece of paper, took just one look, and let out a cold laugh. Father, this person imitating the handwriting really put in the effort. It could almost pass for real. It is just too bad. My fingertip tapped on a spot. When I write the hook on the bottom right of the character, Yue, it always tucks inward, but here it flicks outward. As for the birthmark, the only people who know about this, apart from my personal maid, is Jiang Wanru, who used to bathe in the same pool as me back in the day. Hearing this, father took a closer look, and sure enough, it was so. It is them, to think they'd use such dirty tricks. I let out a cold laugh. The innocent remain innocent, and the guilty remain guilty. Don't worry, father. I am just about to invite you to watch a good show. Rumors are vicious, but if handled properly, they can actually become a sharp weapon for a counterattack. I asked Yi Chen to have his men find a way to sneak into the place where Jiang Wanru was being guarded, to get the drafts she used to practice imitating my handwriting, as well as evidence of her communicating with the outside world. Ya Chen didn't hesitate. Okay, give me a day. I waited restlessly in my room, feeling both expectant and nervous. Around midnight, a very faint tapping sound came from outside the window. I immediately opened the window, and Yi Chen nimbly vaulted in, carrying a trace of the chill from the night dew. How did it go? Ye Chen took out a few crumpled balls of paper from his robes. Upon unfolding them, there, shockingly, were the practice drafts of Jiang Wanru imitating my handwriting. There was also an unfinished letter to Gu Jinghong, the lines filled with malice and the thrill of imminent revenge. She hid it very well, pressed at the very bottom of her dressing box. Of the old women guarding her, one has already been bought off by the Gu family, secretly passing messages for her. I also stopped by that clan elder's house on the way, and sure enough, I intercepted a secret letter and a banknote for a hefty sum. He handed another secret letter to me. The letter was written by a steward of the Gu family. The content thanked the clan elder for speaking up righteously and promised a generous reward once the matter was settled. Witnesses and physical evidence, it is almost all here. I clutched the evidence tightly, my fingertips turning white from the force. The evidence was irrefutable, but I didn't lash out immediately. I just had Yi Chen send people to keep watching them. But who knew? Zhang Wanru would actually keep courting death. She conspired with her already, spurned concubine, Liu, and instigated a few clan elders who usually didn't get along with father, using the excuse that a daughter will eventually marry out. So plans need to be made early. They proposed transferring a lucrative estate outside the city and 2 shops to Zhang Wanru's name in advance, euphemistically calling it giving her a safety net. The excuse sounded grand, but their intentions were damnable. That estate and the shops were the most substantial part of mother's dowry back then, and also one of the most important assets I'd rely on when I get married in the future. Father naturally wouldn't agree, and he argued his case strongly at the clan meeting. After hearing the news, I took Quli and stormed straight into the ancestral hall. At that time, several clan elders were speaking one after another to persuade father, while Zhang Wanru knelt on the ground, weeping like a pear blossom bathed in rain, as if she had suffered a massive grievance. Concubine Liu was chiming in from the side, insinuating that father was biased and didn't care about the life or death of his concubine, born daughter. I stepped into the ancestral hall, my gaze sweeping coldly over everyone before finally landing on the head clan elder, and I curtsied slightly. I heard that you granduncles are discussing Sister Wanru's dowry. As her eldest sister, I also have some thoughts on this. I wonder if I may speak. The head clan elder stroked his beard, his tone indifferent. A woman's virtue lies in her lack of talent. Matters of dowry are for fathers, brothers, and clan elders to decide. You, an unmarried girl, should just listen. Granduncle is mistaken. I straightened my back. The Liang Law, Household and Marriages states, a woman's dowry is her private property. Fathers and brothers may not seize it without permission. That farm estate and the shop are registered under my mother's name, and mother long intended them as my future dowry. This is all on record at the government office, easily verified. Now, while mother is still ill, someone wishes to forcibly divide her private property and gift it to another. This is likely not just a family matter, but a violation of the law of the land, is it not? As I cited the law, the faces of the clan elders immediately turned grim. They had intended to use clan rules to suppress me, but they hadn't expected me to be so familiar with the law. Zhang Wanru cried, "Sister, why must you be so heartless? I am at the family temple. Not knowing when I can return, I only wish to seek a bit of stability." Stability? If little sister seeks stability, then you should have been content cultivating your character at the family temple, instead of coming back to COVID things that do not belong to you. Besides, does little sister truly need this stability? Inside that ruined temple, when little sister was making eyes at that mountain bandit and secretly carrying on an affair, did you ever think about stability? You are talking nonsense. Zhang Wanru's expression suddenly changed. Whether I am talking nonsense or not, you know clearly in your heart. Do you need me to take out that Hu silk handkerchief embroidered with mandarin ducks playing in water that you dropped on the ground that day, and ask someone to identify if it is your personal item? My words were half true and half false. That handkerchief was also something I had truly imitate, based on my vague memories from my past life. But Zhang Wanru had a guilty conscience. Upon hearing this, her face instantly turned deathly. Pale, cold sweat poured down, and she could no longer speak a word. Concubine Liu still wanted to speak, but I coldly glared her into silence. Concubine, you had better first think about how to explain where you sent the silver obtained from secretly selling off the household's artifacts. Upon hearing this, Father's gaze shot sharply toward concubine Liu. Concubine Liu was so scared she fell to her knees with a thud, shaking like a leaf. Seeing the situation take a sharp turn for the worse, involving so many dirty secrets, the clan elders felt they had lost face and were also afraid of getting involved in legal trouble, so they all rose to take their leave. A farce of fighting for the family fortune thus ended in shambles. Jiang Wanru, in particular, had completely lost the people's hearts. Back in my room, I felt slightly tired, but saw Yi Chen already waiting. I have heard about the events at the ancestral hall today. Miss Jiang, such eloquence, such boldness. I just relied on knowing some of their dirty secrets. That is all. I sighed. That day when Gu Jinghong and Jiang Wanru lured me to go with the divine medicine, I fear they already harbored the malicious intent to take my life. The bandits ambushing on the road were also deliberately arranged by them. How could they have anticipated that I would arrive safely at the ruined temple? Even less would they have thought that I would discard Gu Jinghong like a worn-out shoe, yet risk everything to save you. After this incident, they probably hate me to the bone, and their next methods will only be more vicious. Soldiers come. Generals block. Water comes. Earth covers. Yi Chen handed me a small bamboo tube. I got the thing you wanted. I took the bamboo tube. Inside were several confessions with handprints pressed on them, precisely the admissions of those idlers who spread the rumors. Many thanks. I gripped the bamboo tube tightly. These were the ironclad proof to completely bring them down. The next day, Zhang Manor Ancestral Hall. Those clan elders came to force the issue again, their words heated, as if the Zhang family assets were already in their pockets. Father turned pale from their clamor, looking on the verge of collapse. I supported Father as we walked step by step into the ancestral hall, my gaze sweeping coldly over those sanctimonious clan elders. Great, uncles, you've come at just the right time today. Wanyue has recently found some interesting things and was just wanting to invite you all to appreciate them together. Under everyone's bewildered and uncertain gazes, I first took out the drafts Jiang Wanru used to imitate handwriting and that unfinished letter. This statement, the handwriting imitation, is indeed exquisite, but unfortunately, the real thing is right here. I spread out the authentic writing and the forgery side by side, and the differences were clear at a glance. And the source of this vicious scheme is none other than Jiang Wanru, who was sent to the family temple long ago to cultivate her character. As for how she knew about my physical features, I laughed coldly, my gaze sweeping over the crowd. The expressions of several clan elders changed slightly. I chuckled and pointed my finger at that clan elder, who was related to concubine Liu. And there is this. I fiercely threw the secret letter and banknotes Yekin had intercepted in front of him. The Gu family's banknotes and secret letter. How do you explain this? Do I need to invite that steward from the Gu family to come confront you face to face? The evidence is ironclad. That clan elder immediately slumped to the ground, dripping with cold sweat, unable to say a single word. The other two clan elders also looked horrified, backing away repeatedly, terrified of being implicated. Father watched all of this, shaking all over with anger. You all, are unworthy of being kin, conspiring with outsiders to harm your own clan. Get out! Get the hell out of the Jiang house! Just then, a sudden commotion erupted outside the door. A servant, covered in blood and dressed in rags, scrambled inside, crying out, "Master, eldest miss, it is terrible." Second, Miss was attacked by vicious bandits at the family shrine. The guard suffered heavy casualties. Second Miss. She was taken away by the bandits. What? Everyone in the ancestral hall was stunned. Zhang Wanru was taken by vicious bandits. I instinctively looked at Yi Chen, only to see his brows furrowed as he gave me a very slight shake of his head, signaling that it wasn't his doing. Oh, then it must be Gu Jinghong, wanting to silence her for good. Zhang Wanru didn't expect this, did you? In this life, The one being brutally silenced is you. With Jiang Wanru missing, the clan elders no longer had the heart to cause trouble. Father immediately sent people to the family shrine to investigate. Yachen also secretly sent men to track the trail of those bandits, and the news brought back confirmed my guess. It was indeed Gu Jinghong. However, just as we were ready and waiting, a sudden turn of events completely disrupted all our plans. Gu Jinghong died. When the news arrived, everyone was stunned. They say his old injuries relapsed, coupled with pent-up frustration, and he passed away quietly in his sleep last night. The Gu family publicly claimed he died from severe injuries and held a hasty funeral, as if they were anxious to cover something up. His old injuries relapsed? Listening to the news Yi Chen's men had gathered, doubt sprang up in my heart. Although Gu Jinghong's injuries were severe, they definitely weren't enough to make him drop dead so quietly in just a few days. Ye Chen's eyes were deep. According to the reports from our people planted in the Gu Yu family, 2 days before Gu Jinghong died, a few fierce bandits slipped into Qingcheng. It is likely the distribution of profits wasn't even, and someone flipped the table. I understood immediately. Jiang Wanru and Gu Jinghong couldn't get their hands on the Jiang family assets for the longest time. How could those bandits be easy to deal with? In the end, they paid with their own lives. Those who plot against others will be plotted against in turn. And as for Jiang Wanru's whereabouts, we finally got an answer. A few days later, someone discovered her body in a desolate patch of woods beside the main road. Her clothes were in tatters, and her face was frozen in terror. After examining the body, the authorities concluded that she had encountered bandits, could not bear the humiliation, and ended her own life. When Father heard the news, he remained silent for a long time. Finally, he just waved his hand and ordered, "Find a place and bury her. There is no need for her to enter the ancestral grave." I didn't feel much emotion in my heart. She schemed and calculated, yet ended up with such a fate, nothing more than a pawn used and discarded by those mountain bandits. All the turmoil seemed to gradually subside with the deaths of Gu Jinghong and Jiang Wanru. Sunlight once again bathed the courtyard of the Jiang Manor, as if dispelling the gloom of the past few days. Life returned to peace. Every day, aside from managing household affairs, was spent visiting Yi Chen. Yi Chen's injuries had completely healed thanks to the potent effects of the Purple Mansion, soul-restoring pill, and his quiet recuperation over these days. He had changed into a set of exquisite ink-colored robes and stood beneath the pear tree in my courtyard, which was in full bloom. His posture was upright, and his bearing natural gone was the wretchedness from the ruined temple, leaving only an unfathomable air of nobility and aloofness. "Miss Jiang, my injuries have healed. I have important business in the capital, and will be departing soon." My hand paused slightly as I held the pot to pour tea for him, but immediately returned to normal. I pushed the brewed tea toward him and smiled faintly. "The journey to the capital is long. Take care on the road, young master." His gaze fell upon my face, holding a hint of indescribable complexity. "On this return to the capital, I fear I will have to handle many complicated affairs. I happen to lack someone by my side as meticulous and calm in a crisis as you to assist me. You have done me the great grace of saving my life, miss. I am grateful to the core. If you are willing, you may accompany me to the capital. I can petition His Majesty to grant you." "Young Master Yi," I interrupted him softly, raising my eyes. The smile on my lips was faint, but determined. "I appreciate your kindness, young master. However, Qingzhou is my home, and the Jiang residence is my root. My parents are growing old, and after this upheaval, many affairs in the household need someone to manage them. My only wish in this life is to guard the family estate well, protect my loved ones, and seek a life of stability and quiet serenity." I looked toward the crabapple tree in the corner of the courtyard that was sprouting new buds. The capital is a place of turbulence, not what Wan Yue yearns for. Young master, your future is bright, and a wider world awaits you. There is no need to be concerned about me. Yekin remained silent for a moment. A trace of very faint loss flitted across his eyes, but it quickly dissipated without a trace. He seemed to have already expected my answer. I understand. He did not insist. Instead, he took out a black jade token from his robes, warm to the touch and carved with intricate cloud patterns, and gently placed it on the stone table. This is for you. If you ever run into trouble in the future, big or small, take this token to any shop in the capital with the character Yun on its signboard. Seeing this token is like seeing me. They will surely do all they can to help. I looked at that token, my heart filled with mixed feelings. I saved him not for a reward, but only because of that black shadow that rushed into the sea of fire before my death in my past life. That helping hand offered in despair, which I never saw clearly. It made me feel grateful after my rebirth, and I just wanted to return a shred of kindness within my power. Saving him was by chance, yet also inevitable, because I would absolutely never give the divine pill to an ungrateful wretch like Gu Jinghong again. Thank you, young master. I didn't act coy and refuse. Instead, I accepted the token and tucked it properly into my sleeve. The debts of gratitude between us are settled. May everything go smoothly for you from here on, young master. Ye Chen gave me a deep look. In the end, he said nothing more, only gave a slight nod, then turned briskly. His ink-black figure passed through the moon gate and vanished into the warm spring light. I sat alone in the courtyard, my fingertips rubbing the token in my sleeve, my heart completely calm. Revenge has been taken, my home is still here, and my family is healthy. This is already heaven's greatest blessing to me. As for those of noble status who dwell in the clouds, and an ordinary woman of the mortal world like me, we were meant to be two parallel lines that never intersect. In the years that followed, I guarded the Jiang residence, relying on scattered memories from my past life and my increasingly steady temperament in this one. I carefully managed the family business. I ran the dowry shops my mother left behind until they were booming, and even secretly sponsored some students from poor families who were eager to learn. Seeing this, Father was deeply gratified and gradually handed over more affairs for me to handle. Occasionally, I would hear some rumors about the capital from traveling merchants. They said the imperial court had undergone a renewal, and that there seemed to be a newly powerful but reclusive prince in the capital, whose thunderous methods commanded awe. Listening to this, I simply smiled faintly, lowered my head, and continued checking the ledger in my hand. All those grand, sweeping events are already stories from another world. The sky in Qingzhou remains a clear, limpid blue, and the pear blossoms in the courtyard have withered and bloomed once again. I stand under the veranda, watching Chuli and the little maids laughing as they pick fresh flower sprigs to make seasonal flower cakes. The air is filled with a sweet floral fragrance and the warm scent of the hearth. In this life, not only am I living well, but I also possess ordinary stability and happiness. To spend the rest of my days like this is truly wonderful.